Welcome to another edition of the 5-Star Zone. Rico Beard, Howard Griffith from the Big Ten Network joining me like he always does every week. And Howard, all right, let's just get the legalese out the way first.
Yeah.
The latest with the University of Michigan. There's going to actually be, I guess, a hearing to get the suspension overturned in court because they couldn't get the injunction in time for the game. It was like watching a bad episode of Law and Order as you were just watching. The only thing missing was the dun dun because you were waiting for each little thing. Every hour went by. So they submitted like a 250-page document. And I'm thinking to myself, if I wanted to get something overturned right away, I'm probably not going to hand the judge a 250-page paper and say, hey, can you hurry up and read this and let me play? That being said, the judge said it's going to happen on Friday at 9 a.m. Yeah. They're going to have a meeting to see if Jim Harbaugh can play. Can coach, be on the sideline with his team. Before I get your opinion, Howard, I guess for me, it almost to the point where why? You're 4-0 without him. You went to Happy Valley and you won. Obviously your assistants are very capable of keeping this thing going. Like I'm not really understanding what's the big deal. Like if you're Michigan, you're winning without him, man. Explain this to me.
Yeah, I just think. Listen, he's the head coach, and the university and all their supporters want him on the sidelines and feel, they've been able to take care of business when he hasn't been there, but they want him on the sidelines, and it looks like they're going to do everything possible to make sure that they at least exhaust all their options to get him back on the field. And we're going to find out bright and early in the morning, I guess, sometime around. It shouldn't take that long for the hearing. And I know that Coach Harbaugh talked earlier in the week how he's excited for the opportunity to plead his case. And I don't exactly know if he gets that opportunity to do so, but it'll be definitely something that everyone will be watching around the country to see just what takes place.
Right. So, they're going to do everything that they can to get it back. And I guess if you're Michigan, you want him on the sideline. I don't know how this thing goes because it just seems to me once you involve the courts and lawyers, man, it's like inviting the IRS to look at your books. This is certain things. In the end, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze? So that's I guess that's where I'm at with this. Where if I'm them, you got a great team. You can go on the road. You can win without them. Maybe you just literally and figuratively just sit this one out.
Yeah, I can see the point, and I see both sides. Obviously, like I said before, they want their coach on the sideline. They feel like he has been wronged, and Michigan has been wronged, and that's their stance, and their options that are out there for them to try to get some things overturned, and they've obviously have dug in and decided that they're going to fight. So, it's just a wait and see thing. I know everyone has an opinion about just how much is known, if something was known, but the reality is right now they're in the midst of this season, and crazy enough, this is probably brought this team together even more, and not a team you necessarily want to see on Saturdays right now. Now, they still have their big game coming up. They got to get past this one in Maryland, which, they should be able to take care of business in that one. And then everything looks ahead to what happens at Ohio State. And again, I think they're hoping that they have their head coach on the sideline, not only for the Ohio State game, but obviously this one this week. But we'll have to wait and see till tomorrow morning to see what kind of verdict is handed down.
It's funny you say that because with everything going on, you're right. This has galvanized this team. You got Ohio State, a date with them, in like 9 days. You played, Howard.
Yeah.
Who has to be the person that says, guys, Maryland doesn't give a damn about any of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Maryland just wants to beat us because Maryland's forgotten. Like nobody's talking about them. And is the captains, is the coaching staff, like who's the person in the locker room that says, hey, let's not forget about the Terrapins?
You know what? This is one of those teams, man, and this is just when you think about the team. For me, covering this team and covering some of their leaders who really emerged a couple of years ago, this is a team that's they've just been focused. This is the team. The leaders of this team now are the guys that really kind of turn the whole thing around as far as what they were doing on the field and the way they go about their business in the locker room. So I don't know that they're going to need a lot of motivation or a lot of talk about, hey, we still need to take care of business this weekend. I think they'll be fired up again. There's going to be a lot that's going to be circulating and going to be out. They'll presumably will have the information they need as far as the injunction, whether or not it went through or not. So I think this team is just continuing to battle because now people are not only saying, okay, there weren't allegedly coaches involved, but players had to know, and players are taking advantage, have an unfair advantage. And the players are like, hey, man, we're just better than you guys, and we're going to go out and prove it each and every week. So I think that's what really is going to keep this team together, just the shots that they continue to take as a team and as a program.
Now let's get to the game because Sharon Moore takes over.
Yeah.
And things weren't going so well. I mean, Penn State was in for a battle, and they were bringing the pressure off the edge.
Oh, yeah.
Coach Moore, I'll give him the in-game adjustment. Maybe we just go jumbo package. And for a former running back, fullback like yourself, man, that's got to be music to your ears. Guys, how about we just run the ball? And we keep running the ball until they stop it. It almost went video game-esque. You threw the ball exactly. Put it this way. I completed more passes than Michigan did. Well, the same amount of passes as Michigan did in that game. They didn't complete any because they didn't throw the ball because they ran the ball 35 straight times in the second half. I mean, that was just, to me, brilliant. Is that something that Coach Moore just sees and gets a feel for in the game, or is it after you start running? Because like I play video games, a lot of people watching this play video games, but sometimes you got to think it can't be that easy. But is it really that easy? Sometimes it's saying, hey, they can't stop our run game. How about we just keep running it?
Yeah, I think what you saw is that it got to that point where it was like, well, if they can't stop it, we'll just keep doing it, and we're shorting this game. And defense is playing well enough, but you're right. I think Penn State showed you why so many people really think this is a top-rate defense, because they made things really difficult on them early. You saw JJ under pressure. You saw some runs that weren't productive, were negative runs. And then you saw some guys coming off the edge, particularly on the right side, being able to make plays there. And, they had to find a way to get their guys some help. And they did. And they were able to make some runs. But you just think about when you just decide, okay, we're going to run it and we're going to be tougher and more physical than you are. And then defensively, they take the ball away, come up with some big plays there, and give the ball right back to your offense that is just pounding it away. I mean, they did exactly what they needed to do in that situation to come away with a win. And it's interesting now, right? So you look around, if you listen to some of the pundits around the country, they looked at it and probably didn't watch the game, but just looked at the final score and saw that they didn't complete a pass in the second half. And it's like, wow, well, this Michigan offense something's wrong with it. How do you not throw a pass? Well, I mean, it's about game plan and game management. And listen, Coach Moore has got his hands full, and I know he took a lot of grief this week, about the emotions that he showed in the interview. And I think it's one of those things, for me, at least the way I looked at it, was, he's under a lot of pressure, a lot of scrutiny on the road, and his team comes through. And not only does his team, but his offensive line, that run game, he called the game the way it needed to be down the stretch, and they came away with a victory. So there's some people that are like, hey, well, that you can't win a championship that way. Well, you can't win a championship, last week. That wasn't a time to win.
Right.
They're still putting themselves in position to win a championship, or at least be there in the discussion. And they've got another one this week. And if Coach Moore's at the helm again, which he will be, and calling plays, I would suspect that they're going to try to do something similar. Will they throw it more? I'm sure they will mix things up, but they just did what they needed to do on the road in a hostile environment.
Well, I'm always down when a coach does whatever it takes to win that game, because as you're right, we're not playing a championship game, but right here, right now, to me, that's the smarter coach. Mm-hmm. I know we game plan for this, but what if we just run that? Because how I saw it was they almost, once they got a double-digit lead, a 2-score lead, they bled the clock. Let's just run out the second half. They're not moving the ball. They're not scoring. So even if we don't score, we're going to bleed 6 minutes, 7 minutes off the clock, leaving them very little time. They're going to start to get more and more desperate, and they're going to start to do some crazy things. I've seen it before. Yeah, I saw it. Ironically enough, it was 2 times against Michigan. Mm-hmm. It was Wisconsin, I think, ran the ball 27 times against Michigan in the Big House. And it was just like, and it was the same play. Just over and over again. Also in 2017, the rain game in the Big House, it was MSU played them, and the rain was coming in sideways, and they basically, D'Antonio was like, yeah, we're just going to run the ball. Michigan had 6 interceptions. Like, yeah, we're not even going to try. Yeah. For this, that's great coaching on Coach Moore's part. Now, I will say this, like if he was one of my boys, yeah, he probably would have been hit with a whole bunch of Cuba Gooding Jr., Jerry Maguire crying memes and stuff. Like, bruh, I was okay with the emotion. I was a little bit like, okay, it's kind of the old Herm Edwards thing. You can't have both. Okay, if you're going to thank God, you can't be dropping F-bombs in the whole thing. You got to pick one, man. You got to pick one. I'm quite sure your pastor wasn't proud of that moment. He understood, may not have been too proud of that moment.
Well, he had to apologize. He came out, he said he had to apologize to some people. His mom being one. But I try to put myself in his shoes in this situation. And listen, they prepared all week as if there was a option, not an option, but a chance that Jim Harbaugh was not going to be on the sideline. But even still, you're still on the road in hostile environment, the biggest game of Michigan's season. A lot on the line as far as what people believe this team can do, because they say, hey, the schedule's what it is, but now they're playing their first big time opponent and they're on the road, and what are they going to be able to do? So, it's a new experience for him. I mean, this is much different than the first game he was the coach for. Now, he looks like he could be in this position for at least a couple of more weeks, depending upon what happens tomorrow. And each one of these games, it continues to mount. And I think the other thing is this. Listen, Jim Harbaugh is able to coach during the week, be in meetings, do all the things that he needs to do.
I don't see it as a punishment. I mean, it's a punishment because you can't be there, but you're doing everything. You're setting everybody up, and, you just – I guess it's frustrating as a coach because you always be on the sideline. But, Jim, you get to go and put your feet up, sit in the hotel pool, and watch the game on the big screen. It's not a real punishment where, like, you can't be in the building, you can't talk to anybody. That hits hard. This is more of an inconvenience than a punishment, how I see it.
Yeah, I think we were looking in the studio. We were like, okay, is he going to be on the bus? Okay, how do you define venue? Can't be in the venue. So is the venue, where does the venue start? Does it start at the parking lot, or does it start at the gate to the stadium? So I could envision, I could say, hey, I could see Jim Harbaugh stepping off the bus and congratulating each one of his teams, telling them good job, way to go, have a good game, and hop back on the bus and leave. I mean,
I thought the same, like maybe he catches an Uber, and as the game is ending, he then runs into the locker room and cheers and celebrates, because technically the game is now over. Funny story, that something very similar to that happened. Will Golston, he now plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He got suspended. You may remember it was the Michigan State Wisconsin game, the Rocket game, the game that the ball bounced around, the refs had to take a look to see if it was a touchdown or not. He was suspended for that game. He was like, man, he was watching it in his student apartment, and realized 5 minutes into the game it was close, and said he's this 6'7" brother is running down the street as fast as he can because he wanted to be there. And as soon as the game ended, he comes up to the stadium all out of breath, but he ran into the locker room. So I kind of assume that Harbaugh is going to do the same, especially next week with the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
I got a feeling.
Yeah.
I got a feeling his parking space is going to be open. And it's going to be a nice little police barricade, making sure he's got a clear path to the stadium just in case.
Yeah, but I think it's still, they will probably got away with something. But I think it's very clear when they say can't be in the venue. So that's why we say, well, where does the venue start?
But when the game is over, he can't be there for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the game is over, game's over. You can be in the locker room.
But it doesn't say you can't be there for the game. It says you can't be at the venue.
Oh, okay.
All right. So that's the only, who knows, man. I just think
Esquire Griffith. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's fun to just speculate and see, if he's not able to be on the sidelines with his team, just how far he can go to be as close to the team as he wants to be.
Now, JJ, because of the lack of passing, may have taken his name out of Heisman consideration for now. But you know who put their name in Heisman consideration? Was Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
3 touchdowns, 149 receiving yards. He even took a jet sweep, 19 yards for a touchdown. And then I love their campaign. What was I just drew a blank on the Ohio State campaign is Here Comes the Sun, which, a play on the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I love that. Can a wide receiver not returning kicks and punts win the Heisman? I know Devontae Smith did it in 2020, but 2020 was a special year. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Marvin, is it just enough for him to get invited to New York, or you think he actually has a shot at this?
Right now, he still has. He has this weekend, and then obviously the Michigan game. I would be absolutely surprised if he doesn't have double-digit catches, or at least double-digit targets. They're going to try to get him the football as many different ways as they can to help them win. What's good for him in this situation is because he's the best player on the field, they need to get him the ball no matter what. So you don't have to force it in him for him to put up numbers. I think it's still going to be hard. I think when you look at the quarterbacks and the numbers that are being put up, whether, you're looking at the guy, I'm going to tell you who I'm really impressed with is the kid from LSU. Had they been able to win against Alabama 2 weeks ago, there's no doubt in my mind Daniels would be, the top contender for the Heisman Trophy. Penix puts up some sick numbers, but this dude at LSU is unbelievable.
You're right. Now, the funny thing about him is, and I guess because it's LSU and they won, Howard could have swore that kid had a concussion and he went back into the game. I'm like,
he's like, well, how's he back out here?
He's out there right now screaming he's Batman. But you're right. Jalen Milroe is another one that if he was doing at the beginning of the season what he's doing now, let's put it like this. Nick Saban has something special for next year. That kid is like, it almost goes back to the days of Cam Newton where he could throw, he could run. Like, it's a business decision. Like, I'm not, coach, I'm not trying to tackle this man. He's just going, no. Yes, I slipped and fell. I wasn't going to tackle this guy. But no, you're right. Jaden Daniels, if I think if they had a better record, and unfortunately, your team's record is connected to whether you could win the Heisman or not. Because sometimes I think the better Heisman candidate is the person on the bad team who, you're all they got. And if you don't play, they don't win. Plain and simple. But I look at Marvin and I'm just like, man, can this kid actually do it? You're right. For Michigan, he'd probably have to have an outer space game with like 4 or 5 touchdowns for him to really catapult himself.
Yeah, but that's what that game can do for you. That's just the reality of it. And, whether JJ can get back in it, honestly, I don't think JJ really cares. That just the way he's wired.
No.
He just wants to win. So, but it's going to be interesting to see, man, because like I say, he's going to have opportunities. You know, you wonder if you could see him back on punts, return some punts and make some plays in that area too. But I don't think that they want to risk that either.
See, I got a feeling, man, they may pull all the stop. Ryan Day has got a ton of pressure. I mean, and I guess this is called blue blood pressure. Mm-hmm. I went to Michigan State. You went to Illinois. So we don't know what blue blood pressure is. But maybe in hoops we do. But blue blood pressure in football means, yes, you are 22-0 against the other Big Ten school. You're 0-2 against Michigan, so you're on the hot seat. That's ridiculous to anybody else. Yeah. Like, you're on the hot seat for losing to, yes, but you lost to Michigan. I can see Ryan Day putting him back there on some punts and saying, Marvin, or kickoffs, here's your chance, man. Go do something special. I can absolutely see Ryan Day trying to pull out all stops because he's got to win this game.
Yeah, no doubt. He's got to win this game, man. And I would say this, too. I would say when you look around, I would take Coach Braun and Northwestern out of this conversation. But I think when you look at the job that Ryan Day has had to do this year with this team, and you think about all the question marks, whether it's quarterback, whether the defense was going to be able to make the adjustments, can they start to run the ball? The offensive line was not anywhere near playing at the level. I mean, this is a team kind of similar when you think about it to Alabama that's just continued to get better and better each week. You look at Alabama, you know, they're playing, you know, whoever can be the quarterback this week, you know.
I think for the second straight year, Alabama may be the best team left out of the playoffs. Because last year, had Alabama played anybody, I think if Alabama made the playoffs last year, they were red hot.
Yeah.
But they were 5. They didn't make it. Mm-hmm. This year, because you have Georgia, and if you lose to Georgia, you're not going to put Bama in.
Right.
But that's the one team. I don't know if I want to play them because you're right. It's all starting to just click together. So,
the way Bama's playing, Bama's playing really well now. I think people would be afraid, or be really not afraid, but be concerned if they had to play Oregon now. You know, there's some one-loss teams out there that can give you everything they need. Right. It'll be interesting to see Washington. You know, Washington has been taken to the brink a couple of times, and they've been able to pull it off. So it's, you know, you got some teams out there that have been skating through. So it's, you know what, a fun couple weeks.
Yeah, maybe I would tell the DB in Washington, the football's not that heavy, son. How about we carry it all the way into the end zone instead of dropping it at the 3?
Yeah. It's like, what are you thinking about?
You're trying to celebrate that much. You brought up Northwestern's coach, David Braun.
Yeah.
Did Northwestern do the right thing hiring him as the permanent coach?
Yeah, honestly, I think it is, right? At this particular moment where they are. I go back to the summer when I talk about Northwestern, because the practice that I saw, I think we saw them, they may have been the first team we saw, or the second team. It was bad. It was probably easily one of the worst practices I've seen. And there was just no energy, no juice. And, you know, obviously, you know, they've made some decisions with their head coach. The allegations were just starting to come out, and you know, it was not only were players, you know, scratching their head, but the coaches were scratching their head like, what are we going to do? And you think about where that team has, you know, ultimately come from. And Coach Braun has done an unbelievable job trying to keep these guys focused. Again, he thought he was just coming to fix the defense. He ends up having to fix the football program. And he's done a really good job. This team has been competitive. They play hard. No matter what's going on, they're playing hard when you turn the tape on for them. So I think with just all the things that are continuing to surround the program that haven't been addressed, and that probably will need to be addressed at some point down the line, I think he is probably the right person to get you going, to keep you going. And listen, you're not having to pay $5-6 million
I think you bring another coach in there, or you go out and you start saying, okay, well, who can we target and what it's going to cost us? It's probably the fiscal thing to do along with what you're doing with the program now, because your team believes in him. So yeah, he stepped into it's already going to be a tough job this year for this roster, the way it was constructed. But for him to hold it together the way he's been able to do it, and come up with wins the way they've been able to do it, he certainly deserved every opportunity to win the job. And it looks like that's exactly what's happened. He's going to be the guy.
Big Ten Coach of the Year?
If Ryan Day wins, I would say it's Ryan Day.
See, I would actually give it to him for everything that you just said, Howard.
Yeah.
This thing was on fire.
Yeah.
It wasn't smoldering. It was a full inferno.
Mm-hmm. It was bad.
If I told you that Northwestern would go to a bowl game at the beginning of the year, most people would laugh at you.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they're one game away from being bowl eligible and they're playing two opponents, they could win one of those games.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you literally had to start from scratch. You had a divided locker room, divided program, divided everything. See, this is the bad thing about coaching a great team. Ryan Day, you have talent. You got 5 stars. You got All-Americans. So much is expected.
Yeah.
You took nothing at Northwestern. So, yeah, to me, the only caveat is you got to make a bowl game. You make a bowl game, you've exceeded where you got probably 5 more wins than everybody thought that you would have. For Ryan Day, if you beat Michigan, you got 1 more win than everybody thought you should have. So that's how I see the difference.
I think both you can make an argument for both, and we know that historically, if you're coaching what is perceived to be one of the best teams, in college football, or should be one of the best teams in college football, that's not going to be an award that you're gonna get. I think we always that's what they're supposed to do, but I would not have a problem at all if Coach Brown won it, and I think I have a vote, and I could kind of tell you it would go to one of the unlikely stories of all of college football, and is probably where I'd put my vote at.
See, because you're a smart man. That's why I have you on here every week. Last thing, I thought that was a brilliant move on Northwestern's part. For Penn State, the opposite. Yeah. Well, James Franklin fires his OC. Was that the right move, or did he just get scapegoated?
No, I think if you go back a couple of weeks, and I think we even talked about it, the lack of explosive plays down the field, forgot which, maybe it's probably a month ago, and Coach Franklin was asked about it in his press conference. I think it was a Monday press conference, and he answered it one way, and I guess a couple days later, the offensive coordinator was asked a similar question, and he answered it totally different. And it was clear that these two were not on the same page when it came to how things needed to run offensively. And I think it just came to a head. And if you knew you were going to make a move, and this is kind of out of his, just kind of tells you where it is too, because this is out of character for Coach Franklin too. Now he normally will make adjustments, but he does it at the end of the year. So things had to have gotten pretty tough between the two for him to make that move when he did. And now he's done it, and it'll be interesting to see just how this offense shapes up and what it looks like now with some new play callers.
Howard, we haven't even talked about it. Hopefully we can find some time to do a show next week to kind of preview the big game, Michigan, Ohio State, but the holiday coming up. But in case we don't, by the time we meet again, will Michigan State have a head coach?
Wow.
I know, man. I got to keep you on your toes, man. Jerry DiNardo used to, but he's slipping.
Don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. Listen, I noticed signing date is approaching fast, but I don't know unless they've been able to have some conversations with some people that aren't or the top candidates are people that are not involved in games.
Well, I'll tell you this. As an alum and covering Michigan State for going on some 25 years, this is the most tight-lipped. I'm almost impressed the fact that no one knows. Yeah. I'm not mad at them because normally somebody is just dop and could give you all the information, all the different candidates. I mean, it's like everybody's turning over rocks and, hey, what do you know? I don't know what you know. I ain't heard nothing. It's just like nothing. Alan just gives you that little coy little smile like, yeah, I'm just doing my job, man.
And I think that the thing is, I mean, he's a football guy, right? He understands how leaks happen. You have a committee, you want to sit around and talk about it with somebody that you're talking about it with has a connection that they're going to start leaking information. If you don't want the information out there, then, you kind of have to go about handling it your way and not have as many people in the loop as you need, just on literally a need to know basis. But listen, I know he's going to try to find the right guy. I shouldn't say try to find the right guy. He'll find the right guy that's going to be available that ultimately can lead the program. They're always, when you hire a coach, right, everybody's excited about it. And he's like, well, what about these other people? Maybe they weren't gets. Maybe that wasn't a get for you. So, it's the carousel has started to move. So it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks to find out just exactly where, if in a couple of weeks we know exactly where Michigan State will be going. But for some reason, I don't see anything coming until probably.
No, I thought maybe after the Big Ten championship game. I think that maybe he buys himself another week. But yeah, right at that point, now you get into that danger category where you lost some recruits already. You got to try to salvage the last of the good players that you still have, and maybe bring in some other ones. I'm just assuming that this next coach is probably going to hit the portal hard. Yeah, to replace a lot of people.
Well, I think that could be, if you think about it, that could be part of the strategy of why I don't need to move as quickly as one might think. I know we want to try to hold this class together, but it's more important that he gets the right person to lead the program, and then that person, if need be, the portal is going to be out there. They're going to be whoever this coach is. Let's assume he's coaching right now. Well, he has connections places. There are going to be people that may want to follow him, or guys that he has an opportunity and a connection with. Because again, I think it's a great job. This Michigan State job is a great job. You look at, what they're doing facility-wise. I mean, obviously, it's an uphill battle as far as what you have to compete against, particularly moving forward next year when we go to 18 teams. But this is one of those jobs where people are scratching their head like, I don't know if I want to do that. But right. You have a couple of guys that are obviously would take the Texas A&M job. That job would move them more than the Michigan State job does. But those are only a few people, right? Those are a few coaches that are in that rarefied air. But I think, you look around, I think coaches, this is a job that particularly now going into the Big Ten and where they are with the 18 teams, you be one of those 18 teams and you've already proven if you can recruit, you can get things done. Coach D'Antonio proved it and showed us that it can happen. And he was not known to be this over-the-top recruiter.
Well, I was about to say, even though he left in disgrace, Mel Tucker showed I can flip this in a year.
Yeah.
And went from, 2 wins to 11 wins in just one season, hitting the portal hard.
It can be done. You can flip the roster. You still have to do some coaching. And,
right.
They're figuring that out there in Colorado right now. But, it can be done.
Howard, like I said, hopefully we may be able to find some time. That's a busy man, folks. If I'm going to try and see if I can get him to do something next week. We could preview the game, Michigan, Ohio State. But Howard, if I don't, have a great weekend, have a great holiday. To everybody out there, if we're not back, have a great Thanksgiving, but we're going to be back.
Yeah,
if I got to hog tie him down, we'll at least give you a good 10, 15-minute segment. How about that?
There you go.
All right. Howard, have a great weekend. Thanks for everybody for watching, listening. Keep liking, keep subscribing, keep telling your friends about the 5-Star Zone. For Howard Griffith of the Big Ten Network, I'm Rico Beard. Thanks for watching, everybody.